The book of Ruth is short. You can read it in one sitting, but it's heavy. It's a story that stays with you. It doesn't have big wars or flashy miracles. There are no prophets shouting from the rooftops. It's a quiet story about ordinary people trying to survive in a hard world. And at its heart, it's a story about faithfulness. Not a flashy, perfect, stained glass window kind of faithfulness. It's a gritty, costly, everyday kind of faithfulness. The kind that changes everything. To really get it, we have to know the background. The story starts in a dark time. The book of Judges, which comes right before Ruth, ends with the line, "In those days Israel had no king, everyone did as they saw fit." It was a chaotic, violent, and morally messy period. People were looking out for themselves. Loyalty was in short supply, and on top of that, there was a famine in the land. The house of bread, Bethlehem, had no bread. So a man named Elimelech takes his wife Naomi and their 2 sons and moves to Moab. This was a practical decision. He was trying to keep his family alive, but it was also a questionable one. The Moabites were longtime enemies of Israel. They worshipped different gods. Leaving the promised land for Moab was like leaving home for enemy territory. It was a move born of desperation. Things don't get better in Moab, they get worse. Elimelech dies. Naomi is left a widow in a foreign land. Her 2 sons marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. This probably gave her some comfort, some family, but then, after about 10 years, both her sons die too. Now Naomi is completely undone. She is a widow, childless, and a foreigner. In that culture, this was the absolute bottom. She had no husband, no sons, no grandchildren. No one to provide for her, no one to protect her, no one to carry on the family name. She was, in her own words, empty. She decides to go back home to Bethlehem because she hears the famine is over. She is returning with nothing but grief. This is where the story of faithfulness really begins. At a dusty crossroads on the way back to Judah, Naomi turns to her 2 daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth. She tells them to go back. Go back to your own mother's homes, to your own people, to your own gods. Find new husbands, have new families. She releases them from any obligation. She even says, "May the Lord show you kindness, as you have shown to your dead husbands and to me." She sees their past kindness, but she doesn't expect it for the future. She is practical. She knows she has nothing to offer them. Orpah cries. She kisses Naomi goodbye and leaves. This wasn't a bad decision. It was the sensible decision. It was the logical thing to do. She was choosing life, choosing a future, over a dead end with a bitter old woman. No one would blame her. But Ruth is different. Ruth clings to Naomi. The Hebrew word used here is the same one used in Genesis to describe a husband clinging to his wife. It's a word of deep covenantal bond. Naomi tries again. "Go back," she says. "Your sister-in-law is gone. Follow her." And then Ruth speaks some of the most famous words in the entire Bible. They aren't just emotional poetry, they are a vow. A solemn, life-altering oath. "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." Let's just stop and think about what Ruth is doing here. This is the first and most powerful lesson on faithfulness in the book. Ruth's faithfulness is a radical commitment that comes at a great personal cost. She is giving up everything she has ever known. Her country, her family, her culture, her entire support system. She is choosing to become a foreigner, an immigrant, in a land that was often hostile to Moabites. She would be an outsider. She would be poor. Her future prospects for marriage looked grim. Who would want to marry a poor foreign widow? She was tying her own fate to Naomi's, and Naomi's fate looked bleak. And she is giving up her gods. Your God, my God. This is huge. She is not just changing her address, she is changing her entire worldview, her spiritual identity. She is choosing to follow the God of Israel, a God she only knows through a family that has experienced nothing but tragedy. From an outside perspective, it looks like Naomi's God has failed her, but Ruth chooses him anyway. This is faithfulness that doesn't make sense on a spreadsheet. It's not a transaction. Ruth isn't doing this to get something in return. Naomi has already told her she has nothing to offer. Ruth's faithfulness is a pure, self-giving act of love and loyalty. It's a choice. A hard choice. It teaches us that true faithfulness isn't about convenience. It's about commitment, especially when it's difficult. It's about choosing to stay when everyone else would understand if you left. And Ruth's faithfulness is not just a one-time declaration. It's followed by action. When they get to Bethlehem, the whole town is buzzing. "Can this be Naomi?" they ask. She is so changed by her grief. She tells them, "Don't call me Naomi, which means pleasant. Call me Mara, which means bitter. Because the Almighty has made my life very bitter." Naomi is at rock bottom. She sees no hope. But Ruth doesn't get discouraged. She doesn't say, "Well, I made a mistake coming with this woman." Instead, she says, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain." She immediately takes on the role of provider. This was a job for the poorest of the poor. It was hard, back-breaking work under a hot sun, and it was dangerous for a young woman alone. But Ruth does it without complaint. Her faithfulness is practical and has hands and feet. It goes to work. This shows us that faithfulness isn't just a feeling or a promise. It's the daily grind of showing up and doing what needs to be done for the good of another. This is where the second character of great faithfulness enters the story, Boaz. Ruth just so happens to end up gleaning in a field belonging to a man named Boaz, who just so happens to be a relative of Naomi's late husband. The story presents this as a chance event, but the quiet undertone is that God's hand is guiding her. Boaz comes to his field, and his first words are a blessing to his workers. "The Lord be with you." They reply, "The Lord bless you." This little exchange tells us everything we need to know about Boaz. He is a man of integrity, a man who respects his workers, and a man whose life is centered on God. He is a good man. He notices Ruth. He asks his foreman, "Who does that young woman belong to?" The foreman explains she is the Moabite who came back with Naomi, and he had something important. She has been working steadily from morning till now. Ruth's character is already speaking for her. Boaz approaches Ruth directly, and what he says is remarkable. He doesn't just give her permission to glean. He offers her protection and provision. He tells her to stay in his fields with his female workers. He commands his men not to lay a hand on her. He tells her she can drink from the water jars his men have filled. Ruth is overwhelmed. She bows down and asks, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me a foreigner?" Boaz's answer is the hinge of the whole story. He says, "I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother in your homeland and came to live with a people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Here we see another layer of faithfulness. Boaz's faithfulness is a response to Ruth's faithfulness. Her character preceded her. Her reputation for loyalty and self-sacrifice reached Boaz before she did. This teaches us that faithfulness has a ripple effect. It inspires faithfulness in others. Our character is being built and observed in the small, everyday things. Boaz's actions embody a key Hebrew concept, he said. This word is hard to translate into English. It's often translated as kindness, loving kindness, or mercy, but it's much deeper than that. Hesed is covenant loyalty. It's steadfast love. It's going above and beyond the call of duty because of a relationship, a commitment. When Boaz shows Hesed to Ruth, a stranger, because she has shown Hesed to Naomi, a member of his extended family. He doesn't stop there. At mealtime, he invites her to eat with him. He gives her roasted grain, more than she can eat. He then secretly tells his workers to pull out some stalks of grain from their bundles and leave them for her to find to make her work easier and more fruitful. Boaz's faithfulness is generous. It's protective. It's discreet. He doesn't make a big show of his charity. He quietly arranges things for Ruth's benefit, preserving her dignity. He is a true gentleman, a man of profound character. His faithfulness is not just about following rules. It's about having a heart that seeks the good of others, especially the vulnerable. The story moves forward. Ruth comes home to Naomi with a huge amount of grain. Naomi is stunned. She asks where Ruth worked, and when she hears the name Boaz, a flicker of hope returns for the first time. "The Lord bless him," she says. "He has not stopped showing his kindness and uses to the living and the dead." Naomi realizes that Boaz is one of their kinsman redeemers. A kinsman redeemer, or goel in Hebrew, was a male relative who had the responsibility to help a family member in need. This could mean buying back land that a relative had to sell, or marrying a childless widow to carry on her deceased husband's family line. It was a duty of family faithfulness. Naomi, now moving from bitterness to shrewd hope, hatches a plan. She instructs Ruth to go to the threshing floor at night, after Boaz has finished his work and is in good spirits. She tells Ruth to uncover his feet and lie down. This sounds strange, even scandalous to us. But in that culture, it was a dramatic, symbolic, and risky way for a woman to propose marriage, specifically under the kinsman redeemer law. She was essentially putting herself under his protection and asking him to fulfill his duty. Ruth, in another act of faithful obedience to Naomi, does exactly as she is told. Boaz wakes up startled. He asks who she is. She says, "I am your servant Ruth. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer." The phrase "spread your garment" was a symbolic request for marriage and protection. Boaz's reaction is, once again, a testament to his character. He doesn't take advantage of her. He doesn't shame her. He blesses her. He says, "The Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness," Aliu says, "is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor." He recognizes that she is not just looking for any husband. She is seeking to honor her late husband's family line through the proper channels. She is acting out of faithfulness. Then Boaz demonstrates his own faithfulness to the law and to honor. He tells her there is another kinsman redeemer who is a closer relative than he is. He says, "Stay here for the night, and in the morning I will go to him. If he wants to do his duty as your kinsman redeemer, good, let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it for you." Boaz is not driven by passion, but by principle. He is committed to doing things the right way, even if it means he might lose Ruth. His faithfulness is honorable and transparent. He doesn't make a secret deal in the dark. He promises to handle it publicly and legally the very next morning. And he does. He goes to the town gate, the place where legal matters were settled. He gathers 10 elders as witnesses. He calls over the other relative. He presents the situation clearly. Naomi is selling a piece of land that belonged to Elimelech. The nearest relative has the first right to buy it. The man says, "I will redeem it." But then Boaz adds the crucial detail. "On the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property." Suddenly, the deal isn't so attractive. Marrying Ruth meant his own estate would be complicated. The first son born to them would be considered the heir of Ruth's dead husband, Mahlon, not his own. It was a costly duty. The man backs out. He can't do it without endangering his own estate. Boaz then steps up. In front of all the witnesses, he declares that he will buy the land and he will marry Ruth. He states his purpose clearly: to maintain the name of the dead with his property, so that his name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Boaz's faithfulness is comprehensive. It's faithful to Ruth, providing her with a husband and a future. It's faithful to Naomi, restoring her family's security. It's faithful to the dead Elimelech and Mahlon by preserving their legacy. And it's faithful to God's law by following the proper procedures with integrity. He teaches us that true faithfulness is often about fulfilling our responsibilities to our community and honoring the past, even at a personal cost. So we have Ruth's radical, self-sacrificing faithfulness. We have Boaz's honorable, generous, law-abiding faithfulness. But there's a third, quieter story of faithfulness woven through it all. God is barely mentioned in this book. There are no dramatic interventions. God doesn't speak from a burning bush. He doesn't send plagues or part any seas. His name appears mostly in blessings people say to each other. Naomi even blames him for her suffering. "The Lord's hand has gone out against me," she says. And yet, God is the main character. His faithfulness is the canvas on which the entire story is painted. It's a hidden, subtle, providential faithfulness. Think about the coincidence. Ruth just happens to choose Boaz's field. Boaz just happens to be a man of great character. Boaz just happens to be a relative. The nearer kinsman redeemer just happens to refuse his duty, clearing the way for Boaz. These aren't just lucky breaks. This is providence. This is God quietly and visibly weaving events together for a good purpose. The story teaches us that God's faithfulness often doesn't look like a lightning strike. It looks like the integrity of a good man. It looks like the loyalty of a good woman. It looks like a timely opportunity. God works through the free, faithful choices of human beings. Ruth chose to stay with Naomi. Boaz chose to be kind and honorable. God took their choices, their acts of hesed, and used them to bring about a result far greater than any of them could have imagined. This is how God often works in our lives. We pray for a miracle, and we expect something spectacular. But maybe the miracle is the friend who calls at just the right moment. Maybe it's the boss who notices our hard work. Maybe it's the strength to get out of bed on a difficult day. The book of Ruth encourages us to look for God's faithfulness in the small, ordinary details of life. He is always at work, orchestrating things behind the scenes, turning our Mara moments into Naomi moments. And that brings us to the end of the story. Boaz marries Ruth. They have a son named Obed. And the women of the town say to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a kinsman redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." Naomi, who started the story empty and bitter, is now full. She holds her grandson in her arms. Her family line is restored. Her joy is complete. Her story is a testament to the fact that God's faithfulness can redeem even the most hopeless situations. Ruth's faithfulness brought her from being a grieving widow to a beloved wife. Boaz's faithfulness brought him a wife of noble character. Naomi's journey from emptiness to fullness shows that even when our own faith is weak, the faithfulness of God and the people he places in our lives can carry us through. But the story doesn't end there. It ends with a genealogy, a list of names. It can seem like a boring way to conclude such a beautiful story. Boaz the father of Obed, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of David. This is the punchline. This is the whole point. This small town story of love and loyalty wasn't just about one family. It was a crucial link in the chain of God's master plan of redemption. David was Israel's greatest king. And from the line of David, centuries later, another king would be born in that same small town of Bethlehem, Jesus Christ. Ruth, the Moabite, the outsider, the foreigner, is a great-great-grandmother of King David. She is listed in the genealogy of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew. This is the ultimate lesson on faithfulness. Our small, seemingly insignificant acts of faithfulness matter more than we can ever know. Ruth had no idea she was doing anything historic. She was just trying to be loyal to her mother-in-law. Boaz had no idea he was preserving the ancestral line of the Messiah. He was just trying to be an honorable man and do the right thing. They couldn't see the big picture. They just focused on being faithful in their own small corner of the world. And God took their everyday faithfulness and used it to change the course of human history. The story of Ruth teaches us that faithfulness is a choice, a costly, active, daily choice. It shows us that faithfulness is contagious. It inspires faithfulness in others. It reveals a God whose own faithfulness is a quiet, constant, providential force working through the ordinary lives of people who are simply trying to do the next right thing. And it gives us hope that our own acts of loyalty, integrity, and love, no matter how small they seem, are seen by God and can be used by Him for purposes far grander than we could ever imagine. It's a story that tells us to just be faithful right where we are. The rest is in God's hands.